All right, 106 point, I don't know, 2 or 3, or here's the afternoon statement. The Attorney General, that's Barr, has previously stated that the special counsel, Mueller, repeatedly affirmed that he was not saying, but for the OLC opinion, that is the policy of not charging the president, he would have found that the president obstructed justice. The special counsel's report and his statement today made clear that the office concluded it would, that's Mueller, would not reach a determination one way or the other about whether the president committed a crime. There is no conflict between these statements. So there's still not the most crystal clarity about why or why not Trump was charged.
But there is clarity that it was not because of the Office of Legal Counsel's opinion.
Yeah, all right. So can we move on from this?
Which meant that you can't indict a sitting president.
All right. So they said it wasn't because of that, but they wouldn't say why it was because. So you went to Disney.
The case is closed.
What?
The case is closed.
No, fucking no.
In America, when you don't...
There are 29 investigations. Was the case against Hillary closed after one Benghazi hearing?
The obstruction case is closed. I mean,
No. They didn't. Mueller didn't say whether there was insufficient evidence. He just said he wouldn't charge the president or make the decision. Mueller said he would not make the decision whether or not to charge the president.
But he did make the decision against Flynn, Papadopoulos, and Cohen.
None of whom are the president.
Right, but he just said in this statement, the OLC opinion was not the reason he wouldn't make this.
But he didn't say why he wouldn't make it.
How many lawyers did he have Mueller on his team investigating?
I don't know, between 13 and 18.
Okay, so
I guess, no, probably more than that at
so you're
various
saying there
times.
still needs to be more research done, whether or not...
Yeah, I mean, because the investigation lists.
So
The investigation does two things in terms of delineating areas. It says this is the relatively small areas we were looking at. I mean,
So
they weren't. Hold on, come on, let me fucking talk. God, come on.
Go ahead.
I mean, they're not tiny areas, but they're limited areas among a broader scope of things, which are being handled by other investigations. And even in those areas of investigation, the investigation was incomplete in a number of areas because people would plead the fifth. They would not tell the truth. I mean, the Mueller report says there's plenty more room for investigation. Now let's fucking move on. So you went to Disneyland.
Actually, I'm not quite done on this. The thing that pisses me off is that this is a made-up thing. None of this should have happened at all. What happened was Hillary Clinton hired a British spy.
No, you don't get to tell the fucking dossier story again.
To make up lies about him. Actually, it turns out that a high-ranking Russian intelligence officer working for Putin supplied information to a British agent that was paid by Hillary Clinton. And that was where this whole thing started with this dossier. There was also a conversation where Papadopoulos was fed information. Papadopoulos was a minor person in the Trump campaign, and it turns out he was being manipulated by the FBI and by the CIA using two agents, one named Joseph Massoud and the other named Stephen Halper. So two FBI, an FBI man and a CIA man, entrapped Papadopoulos, and then Hillary Clinton paid for a dossier written by the Russians. Now, these two incidents were used to get a FISA court, to get a court to justify surveillance and putting in informants on the Trump campaign.
Poor, pitiful. Okay, Hannity. Here's how it really fucking went.
No, I'm not finished, Rick. I'm
Yeah,
not,
but you,
Rick,
you
I'm
get,
not finished.
you've told this story
I'm not finished.
18, 19
No,
times.
no, I have a point I'm trying to make though, Rick.
So make the point, because you keep.
I will make the point if you will stop talking.
Go ahead.
I don't think it's fair to attack the president senselessly and with this kind of savage tenacity year after year because he didn't respond the way some Democrat lawyer thinks he should have when he was being accused and obviously sabotaged by the Democrats.
All
The
right, so-
Democrats under Hillary and through the use of the FBI and the CIA were it now turns out, sabotaging Trump and his campaign. We now know that Strzok, a high-ranking FBI official, was attempting to sabotage Trump's presidency by creating this false investigation, by creating a cloud over him. Now, I don't think it's right that Rick should be attacking this guy when this whole thing was a setup. I mean, first the Democrats set Trump up, try to make it look like he was colluding with Russia to hide the fact that they were putting spies in his campaign and surveilling him. And then, when they can't find any way of connecting him with Russia, which would have satisfied the Democrats in their plan, in their scheme, when they can't do that, then they go after him for quote-unquote obstruction.
All right,
And
fine.
Rick is fine with that. He loves the idea.
I'm fine with all this fucking shit. So the deal is, initially, a company is hired by other Republicans to collect Oppo research on Trump. Later, when Trump is the Republican nominee, there's no more need for Republicans to have Oppo research. The Democrats hire the same company to collect Oppo research on Trump, which at this point, now that company brings in Michael Steele, an ex-MI6 operative.
Christopher Steele.
Christopher Steele, to collect basically rumors and scuttlebutt about Trump and the Russian interference into the election. Now,
Nope.
what do you mean, nope?
Well,
Which part? Which part gets a nope?
They didn't hire him with Russian interference. That wasn't an issue. They hired him to come up with dirt against Trump.
All right, fine. So,
And he got the dirt from a Russian...
No, but hold on. Because he also collected, maybe he got some dirt from Russian sources, but he also got a lot of information, a lot of scuttlebutt, rumors, stuff about possible Russian interference into the election. Because that's a big part of the dossier. That's the part of the dossier that's been most thoroughly substantiated.
So, answer me this question, I'm curious. In order to surveil an opposition party, right? What's the process? Do I have to go through a court question?
Yeah, but we're not going to fucking go over this
I'm
again because
curious,
we've
though.
told that you get a FISA warrant, though this wasn't the only
Now,
reason.
I'm curious in terms of the
No, you're
process-
not. You're trying to stir the same shit that's been
Was
stirred
the
every
dossier-
week for 2
was-
years.
So was the dossier used in order to get permission to?
It was part of, and maybe even the most of what was used.
So did they?
No, you're not the fucking prosecutor. Don't
I'm just wondering
fucking.
if the court-
No, you're not. You're just stirring fucking shit. You're getting me to do this shit. God damn it! You're getting me to fucking tear my fucking stitches. Now, fucking cut it out. Cut it out. Cut it out. God damn it. It's on your fucking. Damn it. Get it.
All right, so this is 107.4, and I was asked to discuss my trip to Disneyland. As you guys know, I object to several things that Disneyland is doing now. Just to recap, if you go to YouTube and see the 1955 Lincoln speech, and you compare it to the Lincoln speech of 2019, they've actually taken out 3 references to religion, which is very strange to me to be changing history.
So actually, the speech is put back together minus the references?
Yeah, they cut several sentences that mention God and religious institutions like seminaries.
So the word God doesn't show up in his speech at all anymore?
No, he mentions God once or twice because he mentioned God many times in his speeches, but they cut out at least 3 references and left the rest of the speech. So they clearly were trying to target those references. Another thing they did is, if you take the Christmas Small World ride, it doesn't say Merry Christmas. It says Feliz Navidad, it says something about Noel, but it does not say the 2 words Merry Christmas. I was there this week, and it's Gay Pride Month, and Disneyland was right there with a store dedicated to selling gay pride paraphernalia.
Disney-themed gay pride or both?
Yep. Mickey, Rainbow, and basically it is Disney products celebrating gay pride. Now, my objection to that is, according to the bylines of the Disneyland, you are not allowed to have a political or religious celebration at Disneyland, a rally. You're not allowed to have, say, a Republican rally at Disneyland, or a Jewish rally, or a Christian rally. And I don't know why they're selling Disney-themed gay paraphernalia and merchandise. It doesn't seem to me to be appropriate. Finally, I went on the pirate ride. Now, as most of you will remember, a pirate used to be able to get married on the ride because they had a bride auction. The pirates were auctioning off brides. And so they no longer have that. Now the pirates are auctioning off paintings and sculptures and pieces of furniture. And the head of the pirates is a female. And this female, I was amazed at what her line was, because they all speak, the pirates. And the pirates don't want to buy a hen. One of the pirates is holding, one of the townspeople is being forced to auction off her chickens. And so the big line that the female head of the pirates says is, "Send that hen to Davy Jones' locker," which is the stupidest line. I mean, why would they have the head of the pirates, this female pirate, say, "Send the hen to Davy Jones' locker," because the pirates don't want to buy the hen? I mean, what bothers me is they were stupid enough to get rid of the bride auction, and then they were stupid enough to make a woman the head of the pirates, and they were stupid enough to give her a meaningless line.
Well, you know what they did? The extra stupid thing is they probably had 3 rounds of submissions for what the line should be from, I don't know, 5 staff members. So they probably got close to 100 possible lines, and even so, that was the best one.
Exactly. So, you know, you
And why are
could,
they sending an innocent hen
to be auctioned.
no, to be killed, but to be drowned?
Well, yeah. So
That's mean to hens.
so they also got rid of all the live rock bands at Disneyland, which are now playing at Knott's Berry Farm. So I don't know, this is going all over the world, but we have two theme parks in Southern California, Disneyland and Knott's Berry Farm. And now you can hear incredible rock music at Knott's Berry Farm because all the Disney musicians are now playing there.
Even
So,
like downtown Disney with the bars, don't they?
no,
still?
downtown Disney still has musicians, but you can't, after 65 years, wait, they started in 1967? How long is that?
52 years.
After 52 years, they got rid of live rock music at Disneyland. So, I don't know what's going on over there, but very peculiar. Just left me with some very odd feelings.
All right,
That's all I have to say
Let me say something.
about my trip to Disneyland.
I'd say that Disney is two things: well-meaning and way profit-driven. The same way that frickin' the news is now profit-driven, which to, things detriment. And somebody must have done some kind of analysis that said, in a lot of these instances, I won't say in all the instances, but somebody decided that keeping or losing certain things would reduce the possibility for friction among the people who pay to go to Disneyland. They want a frictionless experience that'll be more inviting to more people and will get more return customers. So somebody had to do some kind of analysis of some of these things.
I don't think so. I don't think that they analyzed anything. I just think that people that are executives at Disneyland are just as human as everyone else, and they had their opinion about how they thought things should be. There's no way to hire a company to analyze that.
Oh, have you ever been in a focus group? I've been in a gazillion focus groups.
I mean, if you're going to, well, I'll give you an example. It seems to me that if you can't sell Christian paraphernalia and merchandise during Christmas, why are you able to sell gay merchandise during Gay Pride Month?
Well, let me tell you my problem with Disneyland. I get pretty stir crazy during a day at Disneyland because of all the unconditional love. I mean, Disneyland welcomes everybody, and my problem with unconditional love is that I didn't receive enough of it. The love I received was often conditional, or the love I didn't receive was conditional. Like all the girls that I wanted to love in high school, their condition were not the conditions that I offered, so I didn't get that love. I'm resentful of a place that welcomes everybody and says everybody's okay, because I worked so hard to become okay after not being okay and still fail at it. And Disney welcomes everybody and makes billions of dollars doing it and is bland because of it. Though it's great to bring a kid to. And, and I think Disney is popular with gay people because of the unconditional love. You take a kid who maybe because of sexual orientation or something, being at odds with the world, doesn't get the unconditional love other places from their family, at school. They can turn to Disney for stories and characters who seem to be universally welcoming. And as I've said a bunch, gay kids often turn out to be more thoughtful because they've already had to do so much thinking about their place in the world because they often don't fit easily into the world. So, Disney plus gayness, plus they have a gazillion gay employees. I mean, for the same reasons that people want to, imaginative gay people and imaginative people of all types want to work in a place that trades upon imagination.
All right.
Just really quick, Rick, just based on what Rick said, do you think that then there should be booths for fat people? Because I think that a lot of fat people feel like a lot of fat people growing up have filled out a place. So do you think there should be special privileges? Or how about people that have like big ears and stuff? Do you think they should? I mean, or I'm just curious. Any thoughts on both of you guys?
Well, I think when you go there, they were the first to pioneer customer service. As I recall, Disneyland was one of the few places where people watching this are often not as old as we are. But when I was a kid, Disneyland developed the idea of super friendly customer service. When you go to Disneyland, what Rick says is true. Everybody's very welcoming and very friendly to you. And when I was young, living in LA, you would go into a restaurant and the waiter would come up and say, "What'll you have?" And that was it. He didn't smile at you. He just said, "What'll you have?" And then you told him and he wrote it down and he left. He didn't ask you how you were. He didn't smile at you, didn't compliment you, didn't welcome you. He didn't even tell you his name. He would just say, "What do you have, Mac?" And you told him. And you know what? It was better that way. I don't need people to be forced to be friendly. In fact, it makes me uncomfortable. I'd rather people just come up and say, "Here's the toy. You want it? Fine. Have it." Or "Here's your food. You don't have to pretend you love me." I don't like it when I walk into a store and they say, "Welcome to Rite Aid." It's like, hey, I don't need to be welcomed to Rite Aid, for God's sake. And I feel sorry for you to have to say that to me. Why are you being forced to welcome me? You're just there to earn a paycheck. I know it, you know it. I'm just going to give you my money. I'm just going to ask you where the aspirin is. You don't have to welcome me. You have a point, Rick?
About the waiter stuff, wait person stuff, it's a more high stakes transition now. Because you go out to a reasonably priced dinner and a cheap dinner, your tip is still going to be $8 to $10. Back when we were kids, the dinner for a family of four, wouldn't even break $10, and the tip was 15%. So you're looking at, the guy who says, "What'll you have, Mac?" is, working for the difference between, $1 and $1.50 tip, which went a lot farther then. But now, that $10 tip is a bigger deal relative to everything. It's a little bit. I don't really want to get to know my wait person in a lot of cases. Yes?
So there were some comments here. It says, "Rick, can you show your fast math abilities sometime?"
Give me a number and I'll give you something close to the square root.
Last one.
357.
Yeah, that's slightly less than the square root of 19. It's like 18.8.
Can we look that up?
I trust.
19 squared is 361. And so 357 is, it's 4 units less than the 37 step up from 18 squared. So it's roughly 18.9.
I'll accept that. Anything else?
That was for James Pacello.
Okay. James Pacello, that was your answer.
Part of doing fast math, and I'm not. I mean, there are people in the Renaissance who went around making their living doing incredible math tricks, and there are math prodigies who can multiply two 20-digit numbers in their head. But part of being a fast mathematician is to know a lot of tricks. And one trick, at least when it comes to the square root thing, is to know the squares of every number up to like 25 or 30. 31 squared is 961, which is weird because it has the same digits as 13 squared, which is 169. And there are, 12 squared is 144, turn it around, you get 21 squared. You have a nice store of mathematical trivia in your head.
Bobby Sanchez wants to know more universal theory talk. He wants something.
Bobby Sanchez wants more universal theory
Theories of the
talk
universe.
from Rick.
All right. So, my thinking about the universe, after taking, I've been thinking about it when I was 10, I decided I needed to figure out the universe. And I came up with a bunch of crappy thoughts about it, but they were useless. But right before I turned 21, I had some, what I consider productive thoughts about it. And so I've been thinking along those lines for, more than 38 years. And there's some general principles. One might be that the universe isn't purely random, because that's the idea you get from badly communicated science, that once you take God out of it and you turn everything over to natural processes, it's easy to kind of get the idea and you take intention out of it, like people who are confused about evolution think evolution wants stuff. And evolution can't want stuff because it's there's nobody in charge of evolution. The badly understood evolution that says, well, evolution wants to do stuff, that's called teleology, the wrong idea that evolution has goals in mind, rather than being kind of a random process. But then you hear random process, and you end up thinking that nothing is in charge of the universe, which isn't the deal. What's in charge of the universe is persistent systems. Things that persist. It's tautological, which means, it's A equals A. But the deal is that everything in the universe that exists is the result of a persistent system or set of conditions. And there's a bias towards those. Things that are chaotic and fall apart don't persist. And so there is a force for order in the universe that arises from natural processes and these processes can work to eliminate chaos and randomness. We are the product of, we're a fairly sophisticated, humans are a fairly sophisticated product of a couple billion years of shitty evolution that was really slow because it was just getting started. You have these, what do you call those tufts that were stromatolites, was it? Just these big hunks of turf under the sea. And they were, really primitive and half-assed, and you had those for frickin' a billion years, 1.5 billion years, and then it's only, I don't know what, 800 million years ago? I've got all my numbers wrong. That there was enough that the arsenal of things that evolved creatures could be grew complex enough that you had all these feedback systems, and evolution started accelerating, and we're one of the end products. We're the thinkiest end product that we know of that 800 million years of faster evolution. And our thinkiness and all the feedback systems within our bodies, all that stuff is in service of not being killed by chaos. That we can look around, we can build a model of the world in our minds. We can see what's going to happen, like avoid that guy who seems in the Dodge Charger who seems drunk. Let's just swerve to the right, not get crushed by him. You know, you know, when me in 1986, when I'm about to make out with this random woman who came to the door of my shit apartment looking for one of my roommates and was drunk, and I was about to make out with her, and I was wearing only a towel, and once the towel was off, it was going to be on, and then she smiled, and she had green teeth, and I'm like, whoa, okay, that, and I kept my towel on. I was able to, to develop a picture of the outside world and avoid the chaos of whatever those green teeth meant, even though she was pretty frickin' hot otherwise. All right, that's
And just lastly for Lance, you just got a book, a gift from Rick of Galgan. Can you just very briefly, we have like 4 minutes, can you talk about the relationship between Van Gogh and Galgan?
I think people mostly know the story. Van Gogh was an aspiring artist. Gauguin was more developed, and Gauguin actually had some training, so that Gauguin had more technical skill, and I believe he'd been at it longer than Van Gogh had. And Van Gogh and he became friends, but they had a violent falling out. And I don't know much more than that. Gauguin is famous. One thing I know that he did was he left his family in Paris and moved to Tahiti. So he abandoned his family, which was considered prosecutable by law. I mean, if you abandon your family, you don't get welfare from the Democrats in the 19th century. You would be actually prosecuted, at least in America. And he went to live in Tahiti, where he had, I guess, their version of free love. And I believe he died from syphilis, as all great artists should die, in my opinion.
But thank God for the internet, because you don't have to go to Tahiti now. You can stay home, wait for the family to fall asleep, and look at pretty naked ladies on the internet.
I think that's a good place to end.
Just one last thought. So you mentioned Gauguin and Van Gogh had a violent ending, and we didn't necessarily get violent today, but there was. Do you want to just close with a remark, Rick, on?
I'm sorry that I got my shit so stirred. I need to. I mean, even though the show is seeing if how. Anyway, I'm a little chagrined at the chair smashing. Sorry, everybody.
I actually think that it's very frustrating. Weirdly enough, we've had this where I had to debate 2 people at once, Rick and some ally of his, and it's amazingly frustrating. This is the first time that Rick actually was challenged by our director, who was clearly arguing with him. So Rick was actually taking on 2 people at once. And you always think, well, you're smart enough to answer questions from 2 different people. It's no big deal. But for some reason, the added pressure tends to be very unnerving. As I say, when we've done it 2 or 3 times here, it really bothered me. It was, I think, particularly bothersome because the director is not supposed to do that. And the other thing is that Rick just had his body invaded and went through a very serious operation for cancer. And whether he realizes it or not, his nerves are probably shot. And even if I would say this, I would say that was a very clear example of how a person can have shot nerves without realizing it. Because on the surface, Rick seems normal. He could carry on a conversation. But this is the first time I've ever seen the director fighting with him, and him having a cancer operation. So I think that's a clear example of a guy that's had too much pressure this week.
Well, thank you. But I do think there needs to be more chair smashing on the news discussion shows.
Well, the good thing is that we all do, are generally like each other.
Yeah.
I'm liking Rick a lot less after tonight because a lot of my emotions are clouded by fear.
Because there's so much art in here, and if part of that chair had flown off and stuck in a painting, that would have been a $10,000 chair smash.
I didn't think there was any way to stop him either. I didn't know where he was going to throw the chair. I don't know if any of you, if we're going to edit this part, but that chair was flying. And it wasn't my own safety. I just didn't know whether it was going to hit a painting, because once they've been chaired, that's pretty much it. But thank God he missed the chair. He got my computer, and we're trying to piece it back together again.
Just a little coffee dripped on
And-
it. I assume it's designed to be drip resistant.
Okay, well, Rick, if you think it was just a little coffee,
It was
hey,
quite a bit of
I
coffee.
won't argue with you.
It was-
That's fine.
All right, all right.
Hey,
All right,
I'm
this
fine
is
with
getting
that.
cloying now. We're just sort of,
And so if you can just repeat what I say, because you can't really hear what I'm saying, is that my job is to kind of do the research, so to say that.
The director says his job is just to do the research.
Yes, and I do concede that to your point, that I got a little too much involved in this.
And he says he feels like he got a little too involved in this.
Right, and it won't happen again.
And it won't happen again, man.
all right, thank you.
All right.